Iranian sovereignty is jeopardized or attacked, Iranians unite. Yes, there is unfortunately the economical sanctions have imposed such a grave discomfort and pressure on the Iranian economy, and the rate of poverty has skyrocketed. The food price of food, etc. A lot of people are having two jobs to support their families in Iran, and there is a lot of frustration about that. And of course, the political dissidents or opposition also, not necessarily very fond of the regime, obviously, but usually, these kind of attacks against Iran empowers people to unite in Iran. And so, in fact, the regime's longevity is secured. And this is a miscalculation by the foreign influencers, that they don't recognize this about the culture of Iran. That, they think that, oh, we're going to basically attack Iran, and we're going to weaken the regime, and the people of Iran are going to uprise and overthrow or whatever. It kind of backfires all the time. It just doesn't work with the Iranian culture. And of course, there is that, small, sect of people that are pro-monarchy, and, even the son of the previous Shah is like now suddenly all over the internet and asking people to uprise. It's never worked. And I don't
It's
believe
definitely not
that.
going to work long.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the feeling I'm getting by talking to my friends in Iran. And obviously there are those that I don't want the videos that they're videoing the bombs, falling, or coming in the Iranian sky space, and they're like, oh yeah, hit them hard, whatever, but I think they're in minority. I hope they're in minority, because we know that whenever there is a regime change from external influencers, or the powers that be, nothing good comes out of it. And someone was saying that I think they want to turn Iran to Libya. That's what Israel is attempting
That
to
will
do.
not happen. That just can't.
Which
We
will
have a
not.
deep sense, we have a deep sense of pride in the culture. So you'll often hear Iran, 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 but we also refer to ourselves as Persian because that's our culture, which is thousands of years old. And as soon as anything comes up, there's like this, it's in our DNA. And you turn back to that, and you have this tremendous pride and connection to the culture in a way that somebody in the West cannot understand. It can't be bought.
Yeah, and I also want to say that when the West colonized, when they colonized, the biggest crimes from a Western's perspective that Iran committed was that it wouldn't allow for a Western central bank post World War II to be included, because in Islam, the interest of the riba is not permitted. And so to join the Bank for International Settlement, the Quranic and Islamic finance forecasted that riba is the mechanism for control, which is what's happening in the West. And so they refused to have a Western central bank. And instead, they chose that they wanted to nationalize their oil and use it for the benefit of the Iranian people. And the CIA didn't like that.
And Simon,
Because they wanted...
hold on a minute, Simon, that happened during the time when Iran was extremely westernized. Let's just add, it's not like this regime. It was under the very westernized regime that they wouldn't take that, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so...
And let me just give some breaking news, Simon. I do think you're giving an important point, but I'll just I'll let you finish after this. Some more reports from Israeli sources. Life in occupied area is completely paralyzed, as many hotels and public services are closed, and public transportation has completely stopped. Qatari French statements, a joint statement by the Qatari and French, they said, we support a diplomatic solution leading to an agreement that addresses concern regarding Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for lifting sanctions. We call for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of all prisoners and detainees and reaching a political solution. France expresses its deep appreciation for all Qatari mediation efforts. What else?
See, but that's where they got it wrong, though. That's where Qatar and all these places, France, they got it wrong, though. When they say, "Oh, we want a ceasefire and the hostages back," and when they're only referring to the ex-terrorist hostages that Hamas has, but they're not referring to all the Palestinian hostages that Israel has wrongfully imprisoned. So
And
that's
then-
why I feel like we're still here today.
Yeah, let me just finish the news, Morphus, and then you guys can jump in. So the Israeli National Security Advisor, Tazachi Hanegebi, said, "I do not expect the Iranians to surrender and raise the white flag now, and America has not yet decided whether it will join the war or not." Israeli media also reports state controllers at the site of the missile strike in Bat Yam. The Prime Minister must ensure that a response is provided at the home front. There are gaps in protection. This is Bat Yam, which got completely obliterated yesterday. Al-Mayadeen reports a number of wounded as a result of Israeli bombardment targeted a house in the center of Abasan al-Kabira town east of Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip. The American embassy in Baghdad said increasing likelihood of attacks by foreign organizations against American companies and places frequented by Americans. That's just Zionist propaganda. We've talked about the interception of the drones. That's all of it. Right, sorry, Simon, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Real
jump in.
quick, Suleiman. It looks like there's a. Remember, I told you they're going to be making a bomb. Well, as it so happens, an earthquake has just taken place very, very recently, just between the
Where?
border of Iran and Pakistan. The earthquake struck around 10:45 GMT near the border of Pakistan. Its magnitude is around 4.3. It hit 92 kilometers from Zahedan, which has a population of around 500,000. So this again, this is the day before. I was told by a reliable source they're making a bomb.
Indeed.
And they're likely to
Avanchenzell is as much a library as it is
So
a
not
city,
an act of God.
built to hold the vast memories of the dweller.
Or
No,
direct
required
energy
presence.
weapons.
not.
Why don't they just test it on the genociders like the genociders tested on God?
So can we hear, Simon, what you were saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I was just saying there's a financial story, and then when ideology means finance, because we enter into a globalist world, you know, the whole history of colonization was theft of resources, and they used both, you know, physical military warfare, which backed the dollar, and economic warfare, which backed the dollar. And so, you know, Saudi Arabia went down the petrodollar route, which was cooperating with America in order to build sovereign wealth. And Iran went down a different. They did cooperate, but when you cooperate with the West, you end up saying you're not allowed to nationalize your oil and use it for the Iranian people. We'd much rather that you have a Western central bank where riba and interest is built into a debt-based Ponzi scheme, so that slowly over time we can control your country, and then all of the tax from the people is used to pay the interest on the debt. That is the model that was perpetuated across the world. Anyone that resisted that, like Gaddafi in Libya that wanted to create a Pan-African gold-backed currency, or Syria, or even Iraq that wanted to price their oil in euros rather than dollars, ended up in with America. And what did they feed you? Weapons of mass destruction, terrorism. Who was funding the terrorists? The terrorists were always funded by Western militia groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and then they make it out like they're the terrorists whenever there's any type of resistance against it. America's history, once this dollar system is weakened and we enter into a multipolar world, will be written. And in 20 to 30 years, it will be just like the British Empire, something that is not too nice because everyone was hidden from the reality. And it is a gaslighting, and you're watching the sheer hypocrisy as you see leadership. And, you know, and the difference is that we have access to information right now. So Iran was in a battle to control its own currency and control its own resources. And the West does not like that at all. And so you are painted into sanctions, economic warfare, and Iran is in this final resistance against what the colonization of Iran, which has been a multi-decade Western exercise.
Well, and with this religious regime they had such a they created such a stronghold, they were able to finally resist it for the first time since I think like 1929 or something like that, when the Shah's father was first put in place. I forget what the date was. It's a while ago.
If anyone thinks that's a conspiracy theory, I put like the declassified CIA documents and a video that describes some of the operations. And no, they're not defending democracy. They overthrew a democracy in order to have a Shah that they could control more, in order to try and, have a relationship with Western interests and install somebody that could service their needs. And I know we always talk about traitors and stuff like that, but what you have to appreciate is when you're dealing with intelligence agencies, military, sometimes you have to take a pragmatic approach of negotiation in order to prevent yourself being overthrown, assassinated, and wiped out. Iran chose a certain path. The other countries chose a certain path. And now we found ourselves in a position where there is going to be a radically different Middle East once we've got to the end of this cycle. It is a battle between good and evil, but you have to use economics in order to negotiate the diplomacy in the end. And war is a mechanism for getting strategic leverage to figure out who's going to have control over their own people. And that's what it is.
By the way, it was 1925. So the Pahlavi dynasty, quote unquote, started in 1925 with the Shah's father, who was really a gunner. He was carrying the guns because he was just big and tall and he looked the part. So that's all they wanted, was somebody who looked the part and could be a good puppet.
And recognize what is happening to the West right now. You are all being subjected to a Western central bank that is stealing your taxpayer money through a big, beautiful bill, redistributing it to military and corporate contractors. You're paying the inflation, and now you're not sovereign because China, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and all sorts of foreign interests owns all your assets. And so your politicians no longer work for you. They work for a global sector. And this is what Iran has been fighting to prevent, so they can remain committed to their own people and all sorts of things. And once you're sanctioned, you have to appreciate that once you're sanctioned, there is also things you have to partner with. And they had to create a de-dollarization network so that they could export their oil. And the only reason that there is more power to Iran right now is because they were able to align with BRICS, and BRICS were able to create a bloc that actually can stand up against the dollar. And when the dollar is not producing enough profit, those that control the dollar are now looking for other profitable opportunities, which is why we're entering into this new world order.
Just some breaking news. The tweet in the nest, Harrods, Iran intends to launch a massive attack against us tonight. So the Israelis and Harrods are expecting a huge attack by them tonight. That tweet's in the nest. I'm just going to give some more information. Another tweet is what actually Truth said, didn't he? He mentioned this. The Iranian sources, a 4.3 magnitude earthquake has struck Iran's Sistan and Balochistan province, located along the border with Pakistan. Likely that we don't know if it's natural or not. It may not be natural. It could be testing of things.
Just to add on very quickly, there's also, I think, a confirmed rumor that Pakistan delivered some missiles to Iran, possibly a nuclear weapon that they may be testing. And that's speculation.
I just want to correct something that Simon said. It wasn't Simon. They didn't replace a democracy with a Qatar dynasty.
One second, Doctor. Let me give the breaking news, and then we'll go straight back to you as we normally do. The Pakistan-Iran border has been closed until further notice. Pakistan's foreign minister is working to bring back home Pakistani individuals from Iran. Rocketsands around. There's only a small amount, but rocketsands sound in the settlement of Margan, in Habsa, and near us in the Gaza envelope.
Suleiman, is there anything about who closed the Pakistan-Iran border?
No, it doesn't say that.
It will be the government's,
the
obviously.
arrest of 13.
No, but I think there was something about India coming in and throwing some some stuff down. That's why I was asking.
Oh no, I don't think it's because of Indian aggression. I think that was just the warnings. If India was to do something, then that would just reignite their back own internal.
No, it was like a
conflict.
stealth thing. Anyway.
Okay. Arrest of 13 individuals in Golistan province for supporting Israeli aggression. The Golistan province police have said 13 individuals were identified in eastern and western Golistan province and arrested on charges of inciting, basically causing a colour revolution and supporting Israel. The individuals were arrested on charges of supporting and endorsing the brutal acts of committed by the Zionists, perpetuating propaganda and possibly working as collaborators. We mentioned that, we've done that one. The families of prisoners to Netanyahu. This is the hostages, because Israel doesn't care about its own hostages. We are shocked by promises and statements not supported by actions or results. Prove that you are serious in your intentions and announce today the dispatch of negotiation delegation to Doha with the mandate to recover all prisoners. Without the return of the prisoners, there will be no victory, neither complete nor partial, because we know they don't care about the hostages. Israeli media, Israeli National Security Council Chairman Tazachi Hanegabi said, I have no knowledge of any Iranian request for mediation, and I do not believe they will raise the white flag now. And then Iranian sources said the Iranian air defenses shot down we mentioned this, hostile drones in the airspace of Isfahan. That's happening right now. So that's the latest news. Jump in. Doc, you were going to say something?
Sorry.
Oh, Dr.
No.
Shanik,
Yeah, no. I
I
was just. It wasn't important. No.
Cool. Simon, I think I interrupted you. Simon's gone, is he? Okay, cool. Hassan, jump in.
Hi guys, is Simon back? Simon, are you there? Can you wave or something if you're around?
I see a thing that says connecting, so he probably needs to reconnect.
No, I
Yeah.
see.
I can't see
He
him.
disconnected and reconnected. Then his speaker was gone,
Yeah, I
and
can
now
see
it's
him now.
muted. Yeah.
I can see
I don't
now.
know.
Alright, okay, cool. Hopefully you can see
Yeah, I
him.
see my listeners.
But yeah,
Someone can
so
bring him back up.
I really urge Simon to take into account what the Iranian brother was speaking about earlier on. I've been to Iran. The Iranians are a very unique people, and I think level of respect that the whole world has now towards them has gone up maybe many notches, not one. And the religious guidance at the top feeds all the way down through to society. So whatever.
Just some more breaking news. Sorry, I'll give it straight back to you, Hassan. Just give me 2 seconds. This tweet's in the nest. The Air Force began a wave of attacks on dozens of surface-to-surface missile targets in western Iran. This is according to the IDF. Sorry, Hassan, do continue.
Yeah, so I was saying the religious guidance, you can see even with the fact that they haven't gone for the nuke all this time, and many of us we debate all the time and say, guys, why are they not doing this? This just doesn't make any sense. But clearly there's wisdom behind it, and whether you like it or not, those rules are what dictate the action that Iran takes. And when you look at the way the Jews operate and work in occupied Palestine, and see their set of values, and you look at Iran and the way it responds, this is two diametrically opposed societies. BlackRock doesn't even come into it remotely. And the proof now is the way you're seeing the mentality of the Iranian people when they're looking at what's happening, the way they are being patient, the way they're not scared of death. This is what this war is about, right? It's really a simple. My perspective is that the Jews have made the calculation or the determination, I think correctly, that it's either us or them. There's no one-state solution. There's no two-state solution. There's either they leave or the Palestinians are exterminated. Those are the only two options I can see. And
breaking news. I have a report that people near the Iranian border are reporting on TikTok, of all places, about military activities near the Iran-Pakistan border. And this news is being broadcast on a Pakistani news channel regarding the border closure.
So if they stay, they will not be accepted. And not only will they not be accepted, they will not be able to stay there in the region. Because I'm not talking about the ones who were there originally prior to 1948. The ones who came and occupied Palestinian land, they will never ever be accepted in the land, so they have to leave. And
Bro, if they keep bombing Iran, bro, Iran's gonna make them leave real soon.
Is it
well,
wrong
this is,
that
this
I
is what,
find
well,
your
inshallah,
fiery
you know,
friend
they do, and that's what I'm saying.
attractive?
But what this is the reality we're inside, man. And I don't think any financial or economical analysis can even come into it. You listen to the way the Iranians speak, listen to the way on the other side the Jews speak, and you will see that there is an ideological. Well, on one side you have the supremacist narcissism. I just watched a few funny videos of Basim Yusuf, which were absolutely hilarious. You know, this kind of mindset that's been.
Just some more breaking news, just on that, and this is huge. I know people just discarded what the doc said, but it was huge, and I've actually seen the same thing, and I obviously want to hear everyone's opinions because people also hear the news, and sometimes it's always good for people to comment on the news as well and not just do, whatever. But the news is huge. It's what Truth Teller mentioned earlier, and now the doc is mentioning it, and we posted about the earthquake. So there was a 4.3 magnitude earthquake that struck the Iran, Sistan and Balochistan province located along the border within Pakistan. Now we have breaking news that there is military activity reported on the Pakistan-Iran border where the earthquake was reported. I wrote, is there something more going on in here? Because I don't want to put the new point on there. But the point is, it does seem like something's happening. Truth, what's your opinion or thoughts on this? Again, we're speculating. We don't know as a matter of fact, but we're just trying to think like, wait a sec, earthquake on the border, while there's military activity going, while Iran needs to escalate in terms of nuclear ability. They probably may not have it. By the way, my opinion is that they don't have, they're not nuclear ready, but my opinion doesn't matter. It's speculation. Truth thinks they're ready, almost ready. So different people on the panel have different opinions, but Truth, based on your opinion, because this goes more in line with your thoughts, what's your thoughts on that?
Sure, thank you. So again, we're speculating here, so nobody hold me to this. I want to add that disclaimer. Look, I've always stated the one way to guarantee Iran develops the bomb, if they don't already have it. I suspect they've had it for many years. I can't prove it, so I don't post anything about that, but some sources have told me they do. That aside, the one way guarantee they get it is to attack them. Then all of a sudden, during time of war, everything changes. All options are now on the table. And it's about self-defense, by all means necessary to defend your people. That's in line with their religious doctrine as well. So if that means developing a nuke, even if just for deterrence, it's justified. Whether the issue of, I guess the process requires them to issue a fatwa, but because it's a time of war, there might be a loophole. I don't know. Again, I'm not behind the scenes. But I do believe, based on what my sources told me, various sources have told me, the weapons delivery shipment from, there's one plane in China, another shipment from Pakistan as well. They possibly do have whatever components they were missing to now assemble the nuke and even test it out, not in a matter of weeks, but days. And today was likely a test, because it just doesn't add up to me either why there'd be any type of border skirmishes in an area where there's a so-called earthquake. Now, because again, it was probably a surprise test, that might be an area that's less monitored because of all those spy satellites are all focused on what's happening across Iran, because they're trying to find their various launch platforms or where their air defense systems are located, the things that actually matter towards trying to get an advantage. They're not necessarily looking at that border for the time being, and shutting down that border makes complete sense, especially if a nuke was tested, because there could be radioactive poisoning that might be in that area. So the skirmishes may have just caught a lot of people off guard, and so they're going to quickly suppress that to take it off the headlines. But again, we are speculating. We don't know anything definitively. I believe I've always been obviously an advocate of Iran having a nuke just to level the playing field and to serve as a deterrent, not obviously to use to kill any innocent civilians, and not even to use on Israel, because I've always said this: use a nuke on Israel, you're going to risk killing a lot of Palestinians. Nobody wants that. Most obviously for strategic military strikes, disabling their both nuclear and military facilities. And they've expanded towards infrastructure as well. Perhaps those are targeted assassinations, but again, nobody wants to see women and children dead. So all of the adults are either IDF reservists, IDF soldiers themselves, inactive or active, in addition to being Shin Bet, Mossad, Unit A200. Most of them are criminals anyway, so I have zero sympathy for any of the adult losses, unless they actually are innocent civilians or Palestinians. But just to be clear on the earthquake, once again, speculation. It likely, I'm over 90% sure it probably is a nuclear bomb test. And it makes perfect sense given that they've discussed internally many times that they would absolutely change their directive of not wanting a nuclear bomb, which has been the fatwa that was issued by Sayyid Ali Khamenei for many years, that they would not want to obtain a nuke, and the nuclear program is only for peaceful purposes, which is what it's been. And by the way, for people wondering, well, Iran has all this oil and natural gas, so what do they need nuclear energy for? Well, it's because they also produce, isotopes, radioactive isotopes, that are actually used to treat cancer patients. And Iran still has, millions that are suffering, they did sustain cancer or have sustained cancer recently, from the Iran-Iraq war when nerve gas and other chemical weapons were used. So it is now possible that, it's absolutely their right to want to be able to use all nuclear energy for peaceful purposes and also for medical reasons. You can look up nuclear medical solutions towards things like cancer and also other ailments as well. So you can why they're using nuclear, but for now, it is more for defending their territory, defending their borders. They're absolutely
let me just say something to him. I don't know if you remember, but the other day I said there's no way you have hypersonic missiles and don't have nuclear weapons. But on top of that, you read over something on the very first day that I was surprised you didn't give it more attention. They did announce that they were going to do a nuclear test on the very first day.
They got tactical nukes.
Right. So they did announce that they're going to do a test. I agree with what Truth is saying. This probably is a test.
I think they got the tactical nukes. If you guys remember a few wars back.
Sorry, I just got this in that the Iran border crossing with Pakistan is indefinitely closed.
Even more
Why
evidence
might that
that
be?
it was a test.
Because it's a nuclear zone. They don't want anyone there.
I thought you might like that.
Well, it just adds credence to my theory. And I don't even think it's the first time they've done a test, but this one sounds definitive. Speculation right now.
Well, I think they're testing this too because Satan Yahoo came out with a statement earlier a few hours ago, kind of implying that he was getting probably a nuke ready himself. I mean, based off that tonality, when he said he has something prepared or something like that along those lines.
If you just think of it this way, nukes are, 60-year-old technology. America doesn't have hypersonic missiles. Right? For you to understand the advance in technology in order to have that, you would only be reasonable to think that they do have nukes if they have hypersonic missiles. And think about all the other countries that have hypersonic missiles. They have nukes. So it just makes complete sense.
Like they've mastered every stage. They've mastered the nuclear cycle. They've got plenty of enriched uranium. They have their own uranium, unlike Israel. They didn't have to steal any of theirs. They've figured out the refining process.
Sorry, can I read the article about this? This is what's going on at the border?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
The ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel has started affecting Balochistan, with the provincial government issuing orders on Sunday to close all borders and crossing points with Iran in Turbat, Panjur, and Gwadar for an indefinite period. The development comes as Foreign Minister Ishtaq Dar confirmed that 450 Pakistani pilgrims were evacuated from Iran earlier today, with more to follow from the neighboring country as well as from Iraq. Israel launched an air offensive against Iran on Friday, killing commanders and scientists, bombing nuclear sites in a stated bid to stop Tehran building an atomic weapon, which the latter has consistently denied, saying its uranium enrichment program is for civilian purposes. According to statements issued by Deputy Commissioner across the province today, the Balochistan government has closed all Iranian borders adjacent to the Gwadar district and imposed a ban on travel Office said,
You cut out, Doc.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah. You dropped off where it said ban or banning and then something else.
Okay, ban on travel corridors due to the deteriorating situation in the region. A statement issued by the Gwadar DC's office said, in light of instructions from the Balochistan government, the Gwadar district administration has closed the corridor at the Gabt Kalato 250 order until further notice. The public is requested to cooperate, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the Panjur District Administration also closed all crossing points connected to Iran for an indefinite period, stating that this decision was taken as a precautionary measure due to the current regional security. Wait, let me just say this one part. The announcement said that not only movement by foot through these routes has been halted, but the delivery of fuel has also been completely banned. The Panjur DC maintained that these measures were taken due to the possible uncertain situation in Iran and the security threats arising from the international tensions, blah, blah, blah.
Where's the statement from Doc? Can't you reading it out?
Sure, it's, I'll send it to you in the back channel. It's a published, la la la. I'll send it to you.
By the way,
We need Myron here. Myron called me yesterday.
for typical nuclear bomb test, it generally causes an earthquake of about 5.0 on the Richter scale. This one was at 4.3, so it's quite close within your standard deviation, some room for error. So yeah, it definitely seems to be in line, especially with where they did it.
If there was any border that it would happen by, it would be the Pakistani border, right?
Well, yeah, they're allies, so they would absolutely be collaborating, and Pakistan